Morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the latest edition of Keytown Sports with my reactions from last night's playoff games, going to the Minnesota Timberwolves and the Denver Nuggets, and also talking about tonight's game between the New York Knicks, Indiana Pacers, and the Oklahoma City Thunder and Dallas Mavericks for tomorrow's game. So last night, I kind of figured that Minnesota was going to come out and in attack mode, and they did, because the first 2 minutes I noticed where it was Minnesota, they was up by 7 early, just 2 minutes into the game, up by 7, and then at halftime they got up by 40. They got up, no, excuse me, they got up by 35, and the largest lead for the Minnesota Timberwolves in this game was 50. Now, where the rails fell off for the Denver Nuggets is letting Anthony Edwards go off for 27. Not to mention, you had Jaden Daniels going for 21, Mike Conley Jr. going for 13, Nas Reed going for 10, and you had Karl Anthony Towns going for 10. But I think with Karl Anthony Towns, he's got to be more aggressive on the offensive end. He has got to he doesn't have to demand the ball, but when the plays are called for him, he's got to take the ball to the rack or shoot a three. Now, he only had 10 shots last night, so they wasn't really going to him last night. But as far as for the Minnesota Timberwolves, they straight up dominated this game, and you can see it from start to finish. I mean, they made 8 more 3-pointers than the Denver Nuggets. Minnesota made 15. The Denver Nuggets made 7. Free throw disparity. Free throws, Minnesota made 20 free throws. Denver Nuggets only made 11. And also, another thing, I always say it's critical to winning playoff series. This is critical. And winning games. The rebound disparity was atrocious for the Denver Nuggets. Minnesota out-rebounded them by 21 offensive rebounds. Minnesota out-rebounded them by 1. Defensive rebounds, Minnesota out-rebounded the Denver Nuggets by 18. Not to mention, as far as turnovers, Denver Nuggets, they had 12 turnovers and the Minnesota Timberwolves only had 6. Now, when you look at the way that the Denver Nuggets played last night, at the end of the day, they knew that they was going to have to play a game 7, because with the type of intensity that Minnesota had, I looked at that game in the first 5 minutes and I said to myself, we gonna have a 7th game. And then before it got to 30, 35, 40, at one point it was at 50. Mike Malone took out all of his starters, which was good. But when they were in there, like Nikola Jokic, he had 22 points in 36 minutes. Aaron Gordon had 12 points in 28 minutes, I might add. And Jamal Murray, he has been up and down all series. I don't know if he's hurt or not, and I'm not listening to all those injury rumors about him being hurt, because he still has been able to play his regular minutes. He played 33 minutes last night, but didn't give you much off the bench, only had 10 points. So as far as Game 7, we all know this. Those are the 2 best words in team sports, Game 7. But just like I said, anything can happen in a Game 7. Now, for the Minnesota Timberwolves, this would not look this. It would look bad on their part for them to lose this series after going up 2 games after winning the first 2 games at home. But just like I said, as long as the champ is in it, the champ still has a chance. And with them going back home, the Denver Nuggets, I believe the Denver Nuggets will win Game 7. And I predicted them to win this series in 7 games. And I was not wavering with my prediction. Even though it looked like they were about to go down 3 games after Game 3, I still wasn't wavering, and I'm not going to waver my prediction right now. Denver Nuggets are going back to the Western Conference Finals. The Denver Nuggets are going back to the Western Conference Finals. So, all things when it comes to Anthony Edwards, great player. He is going to be a force to be reckoned with for the next 10 to 15 years in the NBA. Karl Anthony Towns, you gotta score. You gotta score a little bit more than 10 points if you want to win in Game 7. So that's all I got for the Denver Nuggets and Minnesota Timberwolves series. The next series I want to talk about is tonight, the almighty New York Knicks going against the Indiana Pacers. They could close the Indiana Pacers out on their home floor tonight. They could. But one thing I just don't see that happening because, the New York Knicks, they really aren't playing any bench players. I think the last 2 or 3 games, let me see. The last 2 or 3 games, they have only played 3 bench players. And you got Jalen Brunson playing 45 minutes. You got Josh Hart playing the whole game at 48 minutes. Then you have your other starters in that 20 to 25 range. So, one thing about it is the New York Knicks, they are going to get tired with the starters. The starters are going to get tired because they have to play so many minutes. And with the Indiana Pacers, they could put 3, 4, 5 guys that can come off the bench in the lineup. So one thing I can say is Indiana Pacers, they are a good team. They are atrocious. They are atrocious defensively, and it seemed like that their head coach Rick Carlisle, he doesn't even emphasize defense. So that's one thing that's going to hurt them if they win tonight. And if the Pacers win this series, I'm just going to tell you, whoever wins this series, they are not beating Boston. So whoever wins this series, they will have to play Boston. And Boston, who knows? Boston, they might sweep both of these teams. If they don't sweep both of these teams, the furthest that the series will go is a Game 5 because Indiana, they don't emphasize defense, and the New York Knicks don't have a good enough bench to stay with the Boston Celtics. So that's the type of mismatch I see with both of these teams, whoever plays Boston in the next round. And the last series I want to talk about before I get out of here, the Oklahoma City Thunder and the Dallas Mavericks. Dallas can close out Oklahoma City on their home court tomorrow night. Now, one thing about it, I've been saying all season, Oklahoma City, they haven't faced any adversity. They faced some adversity in Game 4, being down 14 points with under 8 minutes left in the fourth quarter, came back and won that. So that was a little taste of adversity. Now here comes the real adversity, where you don't just have to win Game 6. You got to win game 7 in order to keep your season alive. One minor slip up and OKC season is done. But like I said, when it comes to playoff experience, and as you get deeper and deeper into the playoffs, the experience will show. And I believe that the experience will show with the Dallas Mavericks, because a couple of years ago, Dallas was in the same situation with the Golden State Warriors. This was before they played the Warriors. They were playing the Phoenix Suns. Had a game 6 back at home, and then they forced a game 7 on Phoenix's home floor. And I'm not going go into how game 7 played out, because we already know how game 7 of that series between the Suns and the Mavericks played out 2 years ago. So the Suns got thoroughly embarrassed. So back to this game. Back to this game. OKC, they a young bunch. They gonna be around for the next 5-10 years, maybe even longer. But if I'm Dallas, I'm not letting this series go back to OKC. I can't let it go back to OKC. You got Luka, you got Kyrie. If I'm Kyrie Irving, the last 2 or 3 games, I've been getting my teammates involved. But as far as tomorrow night, you got to insert yourself. Luka, I already know what I'm gonna get from Luka Doncic. He gonna give me 30-35. Kyrie, he's got to insert himself. And I'm not saying that he hasn't been inserting himself. He has been inserting himself as far as being a facilitator, getting his other teammates involved. But as far as tomorrow night, Kyrie Irving, he has got to be in attack mode. And as far as in closeout games, he's had a good record in closeout games. And I don't see Dallas losing at home in game 6. I really don't. I picked Dallas in 6 games, and I'm gonna stick with that. Even if it go to a game 7, I'm still gonna pick Dallas to win game 7. So either way it goes, I'm picking Dallas throughout this series, whether it's game 6 or 7. But hopefully, Luka, Kyrie, PJ Washington, Derrick Jones Jr., Tim Hardaway Jr. is due for a big game coming off the bench. Tim Hardaway Jr., he needs about 15 to 20 points for them to win, because the attention is going to be on Luka and the attention is going to be on Kyrie. It's time for those other players to step up. Now, PJ Washington, he has stepped up. PJ Washington, he might need 15 to about 20 points for them to win. So I got the Dallas Mavericks winning game 6, and I had them winning in 6 games in this series. And the Dallas Mavericks, I got them heading to the Western Conference Finals to play either the Denver Nuggets or the Minnesota Timberwolves. And with that, those are my reactions from last night's Denver Nuggets, Minnesota Timberwolves game 6, and tonight's game between the New York Knicks and Indiana Pacers, and tomorrow's game versus the OKC Thunder and the Dallas Mavericks. Please like, comment, share, subscribe, click the notification bell to get notified of all of my shows, reaction videos, and other content. And I always finish out the show with this. Remember, the key is always on time.